everyone, and welcome back to Country Music Made Me. Thank you so much for joining us once again. As always, please make sure you are liking, sharing, following, subscribing to us on whatever streaming service you are listening on. Leave us a review, a rating, tell your friends, your family, your neighbors to come on over and have a listen. That support means the world to us each and every week. Today, we are sitting down with Canadian country musician Jade Eagleson. He has risen quickly through the Canadian country ranks thanks to winning the 2017 Boots and Hearts Emerging Artist Showcase. Now, since that time, he has celebrated 2 #1 hits and a debut album that has become the most globally streamed debut album by a signed Canadian country artist in history. It's a fun journey that began in the bars and honky-tonks back in his hometown in Ontario. So please enjoy our conversation with Jade Eagleson. Jade, let's start off with the new music video. Have you recovered from filming out there with Dean Brody?
I have. The funny thing about that video is that we started at like super bright and early in the morning. So we're like, there's no way we can actually like crank out a bunch of real beers. So we dumped them out and filled them with water. So we made it look good. There's definitely a few scenes in there where we're shaking them up and, you know, having a blast, but it's so funny. I always thought, I'm like, how do people survive this? And then the director was like, it's like, no, don't worry. We got you covered.
And I know that you were talking about your sunburn, being out there in the sun all day. Yeah. What was that like?
It was awful, man. Like I forgot sunscreen. And like the thing about Dean though is Dean, like I say to everyone, he gets more handsome by the second in the sun. Like he just absorbs it. He's more youthful looking. I don't know what it happens. He's like, you know how Superman, he goes in the sun and becomes more powerful. That's like Dean for sure.
And you had a chance to go back to the family farm while you were filming with him, and you have the country challenges that you're posting on social. Now, what was it like? How long has it been since you've been back to the farm?
It's been, I want to say almost a year since I like been back for a visit. At least with my family. I think with my family is almost been getting on like a year and a half or something like that. So it was great to be back there and see everyone again. It was honestly a ton of fun. And I think my folks got a kick out of watching that crazy a bunch of stuff happen in a row. I can't give too many details on the next challenges, but they're all funny.
That is awesome. And in the past, you have talked about getting to a point in your career where you can take over the family farm, purchase it, make it your own. Is that still a goal for you at this point?
I mean, it was, but my dad was able to actually buy it out. So now I'm just kind of like living this dream where, you know, I can play music and like, you know, my job is one of my biggest passions. So I just got to keep doing this, and maybe somewhere down the line, I'll buy it off of him. We'll see how that goes. But, you know, the only dream I have going on for me right now is just, you know, releasing new music and really living in that. So living for the music, and it's almost better that way.
Right. And do you ever see a day maybe where you could organize a festival and actually do a festival out on the family farm? Like, how cool would that be?
I have thought about something like that, but it's just like when you get into like the logistics and you're looking at like all the insurance you have to get and everything else, it's just like, I don't know. Like I know in my hometown, I don't think anyone's gonna trip over a stone and sue me or anything like that. They're all pretty good people, but you don't know about those out of towners, like people coming in from Toronto. You never know.
Right.
I'm kidding, but yeah, no, they're it's pretty. Everyone there, I think if it was just tied down to like everyone in our community or in the surrounding communities, it'd be fine. But you never know what can happen at those festivals. But maybe someday.
And let's talk about that farm. Let's talk about growing up. I know music goes a long way back for you and your family, because I think your great grandpa played guitar. Is that true?
My great grandpa, I do believe, did play like guitar, and like he had like the thumb picks and everything like that. And on the other side of my family, my great grandfather on my maternal side played the fiddle. So it's kind of on both sides. And my mom is a musician. My grandfather on the paternal side is a musician, as well as like a bunch of my aunts and uncles. They all play. But he's really good. My grandfather too. Like he could sing, and and do all that. But he ever made it as far as a church, because he like kind of just being quiet and living a quiet life. But he's very inspiring, especially with his musical influences. They had a heavy influence on me.
Your mom was also big into music growing up, and she was sort of one of the reasons as well, along with your grandpa. So what is the first memory that you have of being introduced to music? Was it through your mom or was it through your grandpa?
It's probably my mother. Like, she always encouraged me to learn instruments and stuff. And she's an amazing vocalist. So, she was always singing and trying to encourage us kids to sing. And, I started out playing piano. I never got very great at it, but I did enjoy it. And then I switched to violin and doing that. And I think like I was doing kind of more like classic music, which I love. I have a huge passion for, classical music as well, but it just wasn't what I enjoyed playing necessarily. So when, not to mention it's extremely difficult, but
Right.
it was kind of when my grandfather came in and my mom kind of developed these talents over time, where I was able to kind of have a good ear for music. And, once I started hearing what my grandpa was playing in the country music, I was like, this is, what I really like. Like, this is my kind of thing. So I gravitated towards that. And I definitely think that they both had a huge hand in developing, how I am and who I am as an artist and musician.
And one of the times, I think it goes all the way back to, I think 7 years old, you were performing on stage with the violin or the fiddle, whatever you were playing at that point. Was that with your mom, or was that like for a local talent competition, or what was that from?
That was with my mom. Is a little show she put on. So I hopped up on there. I believe I was singing Superman. I was obsessed with Superman as a kid. And I thought he's just one of the most badass characters ever, ever, ever. So I always, anything affiliated with Superman was my thing. So I sang a song called Superman. And then, yeah, that was a ton of fun. It was probably one of my first like performance aside from just doing, violin concerts.
Right. And so because at 7, you play on stage and then it kind of goes away and you get into everyday life. And so was there a point where, before we get to like the Boots and Hearts thing, but before that, when you were younger, was there a time when music was something that you were interested in doing as a career, or did that not really take shape until you were older?
I always had a passion for it, right? But I'm a really very realistic person. So I was like, the odds of me actually like making something out of this are very slim. So I'd better, just look at other things. I was passionate about a lot of stuff growing up, like, football and farming, and like same as a lot of other kids growing up, right? There's always a sport or something that they're interested in. And then you know, all of a sudden you're thrown out into the real world. And I quickly realized that a lot of the things I was doing like weren't really like making me feel whole. Like I moved out west when I was 19 and, started into sheet metal and plumbing. Thanks to my uncle. My uncle took me under his wing, and I just got halfway through it and I was just like, you know what? I don't know if this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And, it is a good job and it was fun. I love putting stuff together like that. But there's something inside me saying like, I got to really kick myself in the rear if I don't go back home, move in with my parents again, and and try to do something crazy. So I'm really glad I did. And, the team and people I've met along the way have really helped me get to this place I'm in now.
Right. And before we get to that, I just wanted to talk about when you were young, your parents divorced, you moved into Peterborough. Now, during that time, was music a support for getting you through that?
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like when people separate, it's normally for like a good reason. And I think my parents have always loved us quite a bit and we're always supportive. And I think the initial shock for any kid is like, oh man, like that's crazy. But we quickly realized that, they're just two very different people. Like my dad's very, like raised up right in the country kind of thing. And my mom was in the city. And so it was an interesting dynamic to start with. But yeah, I moved in with my mother into Peterborough
Oh,
for
okay.
like a couple of years. And then I kind of gravitated towards more of like who my father is. And I was like, I love my mom, but I gotta get out of the city. So I moved back. I actually moved in with my grandparents for a while, where there's it was right in the middle, didn't offend anybody. So I just lived there, and they're glad to have me for a little bit. And except for my laundry habits, I toss laundry all over. Ask my wife; it drives her crazy too. But yeah, no, it was pretty fun experience. But music definitely was when I was down, it was a crush for sure.
And with your grandpa playing guitar, when did you start to pick up the guitar? Was it during that time when you were living with them and playing with him, or was it later on that you started to develop that skill?
I started playing when I was 12. So I just moved to Peterborough, I think, and I just kind of decided like I had one and I was trying to figure out chords and stuff on it, and I just couldn't get anywhere. So my mom got a teacher, and he played in a band that was pretty local, and they're a pretty great band. They're the Weber brothers, and they kind of have like this old kind of country folky kind of vibe. So him and I got along really well. And he like I think one of my first songs ever was Walk the Line. And just like that kind of chicken picking kind of sound always resonated with me. So I picked that up. I got into hair metal like every guy that learns the guitar does. Like, and then because obviously there's Eddie Van Halen, but that his skill level is far beyond anything I've ever been able to accomplish. But yeah, I picked it up around 12, and I had a passion for it. I'd play 4 hours a night every night, and just is my thing. I really enjoyed guitar, and I thought I was gonna be a lead guitar player before I ever thought I was gonna be a singer.
Okay. And I know during 2020, you kind of took that on to learn more of the lead guitar stuff, right?
I did. I was just practicing before you hopped on.
Nice.
I'm got a show coming up, and I'm gonna start doing some of that stuff. But it's hard. It's a different playing rhythm guitar and playing lead guitar are two completely separate things, but they're the same. You gotta it's kind of a two-headed beast, and you gotta take on both ends of it. So it's definitely a lot of fun though to learn. It's a good challenge.
Is it something that you think you will do on stage, or is there too much thinking with having to think about the singing and performing part and then thinking about like being the lead guitarist as well?
My lead player Chris is a phenomenal guitar player. So until I get like maybe half as good as him, then I'll consider doing it live. But like I can play decently enough, but I can't play it 100% every single time. So until I can do that, I'm not confident. I just don't want to mess up on stage. That's always everyone's fear, right?
Yeah.
And I have a terrible amount of stage fright for every show. So if I had that added onto it, I'd be a wreck.
And now with the stage performing, I know that you started out playing bars sort of around the local area. Was that before Boots and Hearts, or was Boots and Hearts really the first thing?
Oh, is definitely before. I kind of did the grind that a lot of musicians do, and I think it's good. It's one of those things that I encourage young artists to do, because there's going to be moments even after you've won Boots and Hearts, or you've done this or that, and it's going to kind of affect uh your mentality. There's no one's ever gonna always cheer. You're gonna be the opening act here and there. So the bars really instill that in you. That they kind of, because you'll be playing and it might be a song you wrote and poured all your heart into, but everyone's just there to have a good time and have a conversation. You can't take it to heart. So it also gets your reps in, and it was an incredible experience playing locally, and kind of developing a kind of a home base as far as like people that enjoy my music, because it's funny, you play a song for them, they hear it for the first time, then a couple of years later you release it, and it's just twice as exciting for you and them.
I heard you talk about sort of a place out in the middle of nowhere that was also a Chinese restaurant that you played in quite a bit. Talk about that one.
That's in Millbrook. So it was
Oh, okay.
my hometown is in Millbrook, and that was kind of like it's right outside of Millbrook pretty much. But funny thing about that place is it started as a honky tonk way back in the day. Is made by Joe and Patty Aylward put it together, and they just amazing people. But my dad used to be a bouncer there, and
Okay.
how he met my mother. My mother came in one night. They met at the honky tonk, and then they started a life. The honky tonk closed down, and it converted to a Chinese food restaurant, one of the best ever, by the way. I don't think I've had any better. But you know, years kind of go by, and then I was doing this music thing, and I was having a tough time kind of getting anyone to like notice my music in like Peterborough or Port Hope. I'm not to say that there weren't incredible supporters, but it's just I don't know if it's a very country crowd, and but like as soon as you go like 10 minutes out of there, it's big. Everyone loves country. So we started doing these things at the Golden Wheel honky tonk, because my dad called in and asked if we could convert it back to the honky tonk, and we did. And the first show, it was a decent turnout. There's like probably like good 20 people, and then it just went to like 50 to 60 to 100, and then we're selling the whole place out. And it was just the community, people I went to high school with, and folks I grew up with, and it was just like the most incredible feeling, because I never played like a full bar or anything like that before. And having them show up and support the local guy felt amazing, and I felt really at home doing that. It was a blast. If I could go back and do any performance again, and be there.
And I don't know if it was that honky tonk, but I know there was a night where you ran into a stranger, and either you or him were wearing a Boots and Hearts hat, and you guys started talking about that, and that led, I believe, to meeting with Shannon McNiven. Now, talk about that whole experience, that meeting, and then especially meeting Shannon and what he's meant for your career.
Well, I met this guy. His name is Travis Berlenbach, and basically, where I was finishing a gig, and I was going to the ATM because I don't know why, but I was just going to the ATM, and I saw him there, and he had the Boots and Hats heart on, and I was like, oh, it's like, do you work at Boots and Hearts? And he's like, no, I don't. Like, I played there though. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, it's my dream to play there someday. Like, that'd be amazing. And he's like, oh, you sing? And I was like, yeah. And I'd had a few, so I wasn't like confident or anything. I just didn't care. So he's like, well, sing something for me right now. And I started singing. And then he's like, take down my number. So I did. And then we ended up meeting for a drink later down the line. And he basically helped develop me as an artist too, because I didn't know any of the rules, and that I had to sing into like studio stuff. Like, he helped kind of develop all of that as far, and also my songwriting. He took me under his wing, helped me out a huge amount. And then he's like, I got this guy that I think you should meet. I think you're ready. So after some development, he called Shannon, and Shannon came down and sat in his living room, and I played a couple tunes for him. And then, a few months go by, and he suggested, he's like, here's the first thing I think you should do. He's like, I think you should apply for Boots and Hearts. So we did. And I don't think any of us expected for the win. Like, honestly, it was just kind of, I was glad to be there the whole weekend. And we played our hearts out, but it was never really like competition. And once you're there, like, you'll see that too. Like any artist that ever competes there, I wouldn't even call it competing. It's just an experience to meet people, and it is a ton of fun. And I was super blessed to have that opportunity, and it all led from Travis and to Shannon. And Shan, obviously, I work together with Shan all the time, and he's one of my dearest friends, and he's got the biggest heart. And I'm really glad to have him in the corner, and I still write with Travis too. So
Nice.
It's a ton of fun to have those guys be my friends. I'm really blessed to have them in my life.
It's funny how one little experience outside a bar can kickstart basically a career, right? Like, just think if you wouldn't have had that interaction outside that bar, how different things could look right now.
100%. I agree. I don't even know. It's crazy. One moment. That's why I say to people, go out, play the bars, make connections. It's this industry, as talented as some people may be, it kind of relies on the connections you make, and how you treat people. So it's definitely one of those things that I was blessed to encounter in my life. And for people that are still grinding out, just keep doing it. There's going to be a time where you meet your guy at the ATM or somewhere. I know.
And you talked about the stage fright a bit. Now, talk about the first performance at Boots and Hearts during that competition, walking out on stage. What was that like for you?
It was, oh man, I was mortified. I was so scared, like just even being there. Like I remember like driving onto the grounds and my stomach just started turning. And it was weird. But once you actually get up there and you're playing, then all the knots kind of come out. Like I always tell people there's a 3-song rule. Like you play your first one, halfway through it, you feel a bit better, you finish the song strong. The second one, you're like, all right, like let's get going. And by the third, you're kind of rolling and it feels good. But it's there's always like moments in the set too where everyone makes mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, but that might trip you up and put you right back to the start, the beginning. But it's definitely a ton of fun to just kind of like, do that. I think as soon as the butterflies are gone, I'll have no passion for music. So I love them.
And how did that experience ignite your passion and make you realize that this was now an option as a career? Like, did you sort of believe that when you were playing the bars back home, that this could be a career option before Boots and Hearts?
I definitely debated it. I kind of like I never expected to kind of get to this position I'm in now as quickly as it all happened. And it was thanks to incredible people in my corner that made it happen. But when I was playing those bars, I never expected to like get famous or anything from that. I was just really having a good time and honing my craft and meeting people. And then eventually when I played Boots, that was kind of the moment, playing to a crowd and having people interact with your music was kind of like all of a sudden I was like, this is really what I want. Like, before Boots too, I definitely wanted that, but I'd never had an experience where, everyone was like paying attention other than, at my local honky tonk. But I'm like I said, I'm really realistic. So I always thought like, I'm playing to my hometown, and they're really supportive of me, but like what's the rest of the world gonna think? And that always held me back. And then, playing all these other festivals and having these other opportunities, kind of any new opportunity for me really ignites the fire in me to like keep doing this. It really is like the best thing ever.
And I heard you talk about after winning Boots and Hearts that things kind of slowed down a bit. The career of country music sort of took over, and it gave you the realization that things aren't just going to happen overnight. It's not the next day you're recording a song. And so, what was that period like for you in wanting to hit the ground and get going, but having to wait for sort of the business to catch up?
I mean, the main thing in music, like the rule of thumb, and everyone says it, is it's all hurry up and wait. So it's like hurry to get this done, and then you wait. You just wait, like all night to figure it out. When we released that, it'd been a year since I recorded it almost, and it was just it's crazy how it works. But like we basically like I just went back to farming and regular work, and is so random because like you almost forget what you're doing.
Right.
You get really involved with like the farm stuff, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you have a gig coming up and you're opening for the rec laws or someone, right? And then you're like, oh, like what? Like that's real life. And then you get your stuff, you get it together, and you go out and play, and then you wait a little bit more, and then obviously it's like after you've kind of gotten to a certain point, there's still a whole ton of development. There's always going to be development with artists. And for me, I'm still a young artist, and I'm starting to get known enough that I can kind of play out of province and play these different shows. And I'm really blessed to be able to do that. And I absolutely love it, but it's a very slow moving donkey, like you kind of pack it up and you're like, all right, all my eggs are in this basket and we just got to wait till it gets there. It's kind of it's an interesting way to do business, but that's just the way it is. So it's been doing a lot of side jobs and work like that on the way, and then we're kind of at a place where this is like the full-time thing and we're able to afford it.
Right. And in late 2018, you went down to Nashville after winning Boots and Hearts. Was that your first time going down there?
It wasn't actually. I
Okay.
I'd gone down with a friend of mine. Stephen Lawrence was the first one to take me down, and he's a writer, and he's had a couple songs on the radio, and he took me down. He's like, "You got to just go to Nashville and see it, and then that will inspire you." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And I hopped in the car, and he was right. He's dead on the money. Once I was there, it was an incredible experience. Like, it's just overall a really great trip. Wrote with Aaron Goodvin, and uh, I was just like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is a ton of fun. So we ended up going home, and I went back again with my buddy Daryl, and he wrote Hack and Dars with me, and we are down there recording another song that we're demoing it up, and it's going to be on the album. So it's kind of
Oh,
it's weird.
okay.
Like I said, slow moving. We did this like 6 years ago almost, or five, I don't even know, but it's
Wow.
now we're releasing it. But uh yeah, I went a couple times, saw what it was like to be down there, and felt everyone builds each other up. It's an amazing community. So yeah, I saw that and I was like, you know what, this is what I want to do.
And as far as the songwriting goes, when did that start for you? Is that something you did when you were younger, or what did that sort of kick into gear more later on?
I've always kind of written songs, but they haven't always been great. I've had a lot of incredible writers that helped me get to the point I am with some of the songs. I have my name on there, but it's most of the time it's their ideas and their passion that kind of fuel the project. And I might have a line or two in there, but Travis Wood, Gavin Slate, Todd Clark are the main guys that took me under their wing right away, and helped me get to this point. I mean, I remember the day that Travis came in and it said, I have this idea called Got Your Name on It. And he started playing the chord progression, and I remember that all unfolding, and just seeing there as one of the first ones we ever did. And it took a full day, and we wrote it. And I was just like, I can't believe I just watched this magic unfold in front of me. Like, just it's incredible that there's different pillars in the music industry that hold everything together, and writers are one of them, especially those guys when it comes to my career.
Right. And so heading into 2020, you're, getting set to take off. And then when everything slowed down and shut down, what was that like for you as an emerging artist who was getting set to release all this music and have this big thing happen?
It was not fun. It was kind of like, oh man, like we're just about to go out on a couple tours, and obviously that all kind of got swept under the rug. But it was a good time for me to kind of like sit back and analyze some like personal stuff. It's like, all right, like what do I need to do personally to be better at my craft? So it's like, let's take some vocal lessons, let's take some guitar lessons, maybe get in the gym, do stuff like that, because I was playing with a league with bigger fish than what I could offer. And it's crazy because you get to this point and then you see how hard everyone else works, and you're like, all right, I got to be that big as well. So it's just like I was really inspired with my experiences up to that point, and it kind of pushed me to do better.
And what was that like? Because before you even released your album, you were becoming a very well-known name within the Canadian country music scene. And what was that like for you to sort of have that happen in such a short period of time after doing all those bar gigs and sort of not knowing if this was going to be a career, all of a sudden to be in this group with all these other Canadian country artists? Was that a difficult thing to wrap your head around?
It was it's hard to explain. Like I the entire process happened so quickly, and it kind of went from like, I don't know, but the entire time it's just been incredible. Canadian country music and the fans there in the industry is just like amazing. It was a ton of fun getting to like see that happen, and people actually say like, hey, I love your music and stuff like that. Like, I've never really been recognized anywhere. I'm not that level yet, but yeah, when people are going to festivals and kind of coming out of your way to see your show, I can't tell anybody how much that means to me. It really does. There's just like this feeling. It's just really feels great, and I've felt pretty special having people, you know, kind of see that and be a part of that. It makes me feel great.
And with the streaming success that you had on your early singles and especially on your videos as well, how confident were you in releasing the album, even though it was during a time where you weren't going to be able to go out and tour it and promote it in that way?
I was pretty nervous, honestly. Like it was kind of mid-pandemic, and normally you go out and do these radio tours and you promote everything, and we kind of had that set up, and then everything kind of took a wild turn, and we're like, you know what, like, what are we gonna do? And then, you know, I said, and we all agreed on the team, like Shannon and Mike and all the guys on my team were like, you know what, we should just release it. You know, like, people are at home. That's not going to change the way they listen to music. In fact, it might benefit how the album does, because people are looking for new music, and we're like, this is the best way any fans that we do have, like, this is what we can do for them. And then we had incredible support from, you know, Apple Music, Spotify, and all the other platforms. They jumped on right away and pushed it, and it was incredible to see, you know, people listening and being a part of that.
And a couple of songs on the album I wanted to talk about. Close is one of the songs that really resonates with fans. Now, when you were writing that, did you have your wife in mind, or does it just really feel like that?
We all did. It was one of those things, same guys I was talking about earlier. We're all in the room, and it's kind of like I think it might have been Travis again. Travis Wood came in, and he's just like, I have this idea called Close. And it's funny. I always try. He's always got these one words, but he's got all these ideas around them. So I try to, like, throw stuff back at them like that. And they're like, no, we know what you're trying to do here. But it's he came in, and then we're like, yeah, that's great. And this was pre-pandemic that we wrote this, and it was really interesting just to, like, see everyone's input on things. We're like, all right, like, what are cool things that, you know, are something you really want to do, and let's just say that, like, you know, she's better than that. And I remember writing that and it coming together and feeling really special, because we all had, like, a little something about the people we care about in there. And it's kind of like a love anthem for more than just me, is for those guys too. So it's fun to sing that one.
Right. And with Boomtown, now I know you've talked about when you went to Calgary to sort of do the journeyman thing before music, and coming back to the family farm, everything was sort of shut down. It wasn't working as a farm anymore. So in Boomtown, is there any of that experience in that song?
It was sent to me by Chris Stapleton, actually. And before I even listened to the song, I was like, I'll take it. I wanted it before anyone else took it. And I listened to it, and I was like, yeah, like, this. There's a point in time where I went home and there's nothing on the farm. Like, the barn was empty and everything was starting to get overgrown. And it's tough to see. I mean, now it's up and running and it's great. But you know, at that time, there's definitely it was hard to see that. And you know, it all worked out for the best. But when I sing that, I definitely think of that all the time.
And so your first number one in early 2020 with Lucky, what was the feeling of that? I mean, it was what, not even 3 years removed from Boots and Hearts, and all of a sudden you have a number one. How crazy was that?
That was unexpected. I mean, it was Canadian country radio has always been such an incredible supporter of everything we do. And it was really, the ball was in their court to do that, and they did. And you know, they scored big for me. And I really, having that happen as a Canadian artist is extremely amazing. It's humbling, and I was very, very pleased to see that.
And with All Night to Figure It Out, that's your second number one. Now, was that released independently away from Universal?
Yeah, so we decided to move on. We just had kind of, like, creative differences, and we ended on great terms, and we just kind of decided to, you know, spread our wings in different directions. But that one was independent, and yeah, I have an independent radio tracker. It's just one woman that tracks all the radio, and she's an incredible human being, and I've never seen anyone work as hard as her, and she helped get that song out there. And then once again, Canadian country radio has stepped up in a huge way. So her and Canadian country radio, her name's Anya, and they just, I don't even know. I was terrified releasing it independently. And
I
then,
bet.
yeah, so this one was just as exciting as the first one. And I was really, really pleased to see it go up there. I was happy it got to the top 10, and then it just kept going.
And so moving forward, you talk about you're working on a new album. Can we expect something soon?
I think we're gonna kind of put out a few songs here and there, and then we're probably gonna tease an album top of this year or before the 2021 is finished. I hope to have something out there, but I can't give any specific dates yet. We're working on something though, for sure.
And the new single with Dean Brody, how did that come about? Did you write it with him in mind, or was it just sort of a shot in the dark that, will you do this song with me?
So the cool thing about that one is I was down in Nashville recording, and one of the guys, Travis Wood, was like, "Hey, like listen to this song. Like, what do you think?" And I was like, "This is like really good." And he's like, "Well, like we wrote it with the Rec Laws, and like Gavin Slate too was on that one." And I was like, "I want it really bad. Like, are they doing it?" And they're like, "I don't think they are. So like, if you're interested, like let's figure it out." And sure enough, I got the song. I was really, really happy about that. And then Dean and I have always been teasing like our management, saying like, "Hey, like, why don't you put us on a song together? Like, when's that gonna happen?" And I always tease Dean as well. I'm like, "Hey, like, we should do a song together. Like, come on." Like, you know, like I grew up listening to Dean too, so it's like I'm a big fan of him. So the song, as soon as we heard it, we're like, this definitely seems like the song. If we're gonna do a collaboration, this is the time to do it. And it worked out great. It was as soon as I heard his voice on it, I was like, man, like this guy, it was so cool. It was a really awesome experience hearing like a song that I'm singing on. Dean Brody is also singing on.
And what has he meant for you over the past couple of years? When did you first meet him, and sort of how has he helped mentor you within the Canadian country music scene?
Yeah, I met him a couple of years ago. We came to my farm, and he's just been a good like person to contact when, you know, you're confused about how things work, and you just see him and the way he deals with things. It's almost enough to kind of like that's how I want to be. That's how I want to act. And he's so well respected within his camp and everywhere else. He's just, I think when you're as good as a person as he is, it shines through in every way.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations on the success, and we'll look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you very much. You have a wonderful week.
Yeah, thanks. You too.
Take care.
Okay, bye. Thank you once again for listening, and thank you to Jade for stopping by and sharing his story. Be sure to check out his new single, More Drinkin' Than Fishin', featuring Dean Brody, wherever you stream your music. Please also make sure to like, share, follow, subscribe to us on whatever streaming service you are listening on, and also leave a review, a rating. Tell your friends, your family, your neighbors to come on over and have a listen. That support means the world each and every week. Thanks so much once again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Country Music Made Me.